Good morning. Good morning, my friends. It is Mantra Monday. Hi, how are you doing? It is also Martin Luther King Day. So how auspicious to be able to marry these two things together. Liberating sounds for the mind that help bring you peace of mind, and an individual that was dedicated to bringing peace, unity, and compassion to this nation and to the world. I believe that Dr. King even traveled to India. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a mantra from a book called Bhagavad Gita. This is Bhagavad Gita as it is, and it is a translation by the devotional scholar and saint, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So I put on my spectacles, get into it. So as usual, I'm going to read the Sanskrit. I'm going to chant the Sanskrit. Also, if you look down here in the description, then I'll break it down to the purport or the Siddhanta, the conclusion, and then I will try and share any realizations that I've had about this. Of course, I welcome your questions. I may have to answer the questions post. Okay, so this is from chapter 5. It's text 18. The name of this chapter is called Karma Yoga, or action in Krishna consciousness. What does a self-realized person actually do? Text 18. Vidyā-vinaya-sampanne, brāhmaṇe gavi hastini, śuni caiva śva-pāke paṇḍitāḥ sama-darśini. Vidyā-vinaya-sampanne, brāhmaṇe gavi hastini, śuni caiva śva-pāke paṇḍitāḥ sama-darśini. The word-for-word translation, or the synonyms if you like, are as follows. Vidya, with education. Vinaya, and gentleness. Sampanne, fully equipped. Brāhmaṇe, in the brahmana. Gavi, in the cow. Hastini, in the elephant. Śuni, in the dog. And. Caiva, certainly. śva-pāke, in the dog eater or the outcast in India. Respectively. paṇḍitāḥ, those who are wise. Sama-darśinaḥ, who see with equal vision. Vidyā-vinaya-sampanne, brāhmaṇe gavi hastini, śuni caiva śva-pāke paṇḍitāḥ sama-darśinaḥ. Translation. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision. A learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, or an outcast. Now I'm going to read the purport. A Krishna conscious person does not make any distinction between species and castes or class divisions. The brahmana and the outcast may be different from the social point of view, or a dog, a cow, and an elephant may be different from the point of view of species, but these differences of body are meaningless from the viewpoint of a learned transcendentalist. This is due to their relationship to the Supreme. For the Supreme Lord, by his plenary portion as Paramatma, is present in everyone's heart. Such an understanding of the Supreme is real knowledge. As far as bodies are concerned, in different castes or different species of life, the Lord is equally kind to everyone because he treats every living entity as a friend, yet maintains himself as Paramatma regardless of the circumstances of the living entities. The Lord as Paramatma is present both in the outcast and in the Brahmin, although the body of a Brahmin and that of an outcast are not the same. The bodies are material productions of different modes of material nature, but the soul and the supersoul within the body are of the same spiritual quality. The similarity in the quality of the soul and the supersoul, however, does not make them equal in quantity, for the individual soul is present only in that particular body, whereas the Paramatma is present in each and every body. A Krishna conscious person has full knowledge of this, and therefore he is truly learned and has equal vision. The similar characteristics of the soul and the supersoul are that they are both conscious, eternal, and blissful, or Sat Chit Ananda. But the difference is that the individual soul is conscious within the limited jurisdiction of the body, whereas the supersoul is conscious of all bodies. The supersoul is present in all bodies without distinction. So, as usual, that was a heck of a lot of information in a very compact verse. So this is the amazing thing about this kind of knowledge, is that you get a lot for for a little. So I'm going to attempt to unpack this for you today. So the first thing that it says in the beginning is that a Krishna conscious person does not make any distinction between species or castes, or we would call that class. So human beings in general tend to be very, very class conscious, right? How much money you make, what kind of house are you living in, what kind of a car do you drive, what kind of clothes are you wearing, who's the designer, and so forth. So in this example, we don't necessarily see cows, elephants, and even have dog eaters in the United States. But when you travel to other countries, and especially when you travel to countries that may not have as much opulence as we do here, there is a group of people that do eat dogs and do eat dog meat. This, from a Vedic perspective, is considered to be very fallen, very low class. So what is being outlined here is kind of a high to low in terms of a social viewpoint. A Brahmin is considered to be at the upper end of the social hierarchy. So it's a little bit different that when we think of who is elevated in terms of American society. In a spiritual society, it is a question of consciousness. It's a question of how versed you are, how free you are, how renounced you are, and that can have a great deal to do with your actual understanding of how the universe works, of cosmic law. So, and in between, of course, we have the innocent animals. We have a cow, we have an elephant, and we have a dog. So, the takeaway here is that the supersoul, or the Paramatma, is present in the heart of every living entity, from an insect all the way up to the living entities living in the higher planetary systems, the demigods. Makes no distinction. So this is a form that the Lord takes in order to accompany us and be our friend wherever we go, regardless of the circumstances that we find ourselves in as living entities. Whether we're living in a palace or whether we're living in a hut, makes no difference, because the Lord is equal to everyone. He does not have this vision of class. He is concerned with what is actually in the heart. Now, the interesting thing about this knowledge here is that if you're practicing yoga, often you may have learned this gesture, folding your hands and saying namaste, offering namaskar. So who are we actually offering our respects to? You're actually offering your respects to the Paramatma, the Lord that is seated within the heart, literally within the heart of every living entity, in spiritual form, of course. So we are saying, the divine in me recognizes and offers respect to the divine in you. Why? Because there is an acknowledgement that we are part of the same family, that there is a witness accompanying me and accompanying the person that I am in front, that is witnessing every activity that I'm doing. So we want to offer respects to the Lord in this way, and this helps us remember who we are, who the person in front of us is, that they are not less than us. That's the point of that. So it goes on to say that the differences in bodies are meaningless from the point of view of a learned transcendentalist. So once you have this vision, or even if you can cultivate this vision, especially if you have to deal with extremely difficult people, this can help you keep your cool. You want to get angry, you want to say some things. Of course, anger has its place. It does. However, in general, it's not a productive tool for us here in this realm. Better to try and keep our cool, especially if we're trying to execute spiritual life. So, a learned transcendentalist, they have this equal vision because they can understand that this relationship that we all have is due to the plenary portion of Paramatma present in everyone's heart. So this grants like an understanding and a peace of mind. Again, the Supreme is kind to everyone. He's equal to everyone. And from him comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So you can ask when you're in a situation, when you need help. Sometimes people say, they had an intuition to do something. The Paramatma is there to help clear up our misunderstandings. There's another verse in the Bhagavad Gita where the Lord says, out of kindness, out of mercy, I illuminate them from within. He removes the darkness from within for those of us who are endeavoring to make progress, to make spiritual progress, and to better ourselves in this way. This is wonderful. This is a wonderful thing to know because it makes what we are doing not just something ritualistic, but something that's actually alive. It also lets us know that we're never alone, that we're always accompanied, that we actually have a relationship, not with a divine being, not with God that is like extremely far away and doesn't care and is detached and who we can't talk to, who is remote somewhere in the sky, if he's there at all. But this is our very personal deity that we are carrying around in our hearts from the time that we are born until the time that we die, and as we transmigrate from lifetime to lifetime, from body to body. So, moving on, it explains also that we are of the same quality. Not of the same quantity, but of the same quality. So sometimes we hear this man is made in God's image, right? But this understanding is actually expanding this conception that the living entity is made of something divine. It is actually expanding it and showing us that it's not just the human being, but it's all living entities. And as such, all living entities should be treated with respect, at least with respect, if not kindness. So this is one of the wonderful realizations that can actually help transform the world and transform one's vision into leading a kinder and more gentle life, a more elevated life. He goes on to say that, however, the distinction is that the individual soul is present only in a particular body, while the super soul is present everywhere. So you could say, there's omniscience, right? How does God know everything? How does he know how everyone is feeling and what everyone is doing and so forth? This is one way that he does that. We are limited to the feelings in our own body, although of course we can develop empathy for that. I am barring at this point any psychic ability that a person may have. This is a general example. If you are clairsentient, or perhaps you're a medical intuitive, you can feel, or you're an empath, you can feel, what other people are feeling. You can feel it even in your own body. But in general, your ability to be able to feel every body and everything and every emotion that is going through every living entity on this planet. Alone, there's 7 billion human beings, what to speak of all the animals in the different animal kingdoms. That's not possible for us. We're very, very small. We would become overwhelmed. So this is the difference. So the other similar characteristics that we share with the super soul, or that we share with the supreme, the divine, is that we are both conscious, we are both eternal, and we are both blissful. Sat Chit Ananda. So once we peel away these layers of mortality, once we are able to tune in to who we really are with the tools of sound vibration and cultivating this awareness and trying to serve other people, trying to serve other living entities, to becoming more sensitive, you actually become detached from the modes of material nature. So that was another thing that was brought up in here. In the first sentence, he says that the bodies are material productions of different modes of material nature. But the soul and the super soul within the body are of the same spiritual quality. So this means that, the body of an oxen, the body of a butterfly, the body of a heavyweight champion, the body of a ballerina are not the same. Yes, they are made out of material elements, but according to the desire of that living entity, we are awarded different kinds of bodies, and they function differently because they have a particular purpose to serve. The body of a fruit tree that is offering us pears or oranges or apples or dates, even within the tree kingdom, there's different varieties of bodies. That is going to be a product of the modes of material nature. What are the modes of material nature? First of all, there are 3. So we have the mode of goodness, that is satya. We have the mode of passion, that is rajagun. And we have the mode of ignorance, that's tamas or tamagun. So in general, in this age, in the age of Kali, in the age of hypocrisy and quarrel, we are conditioned by the mode of ignorance and by the mode of passion. We're either passionately making things and destroying things and restless, and we're changing different things, can't really leave well enough alone, or we're in the mode of ignorance. We're angry, we're depressed, we're sad. In general, people are fluctuating between these two modes. Between ignorance and passion, passion is higher. It's a step upwards, because at least you're not feeling lethargic and depressed. But the third mode, the mode of goodness, that is satya, that is a more peaceful mode. That is clean, that is regulated, that is calm, that is a step up for the human being, to have that kind of atmosphere around us. But above that is Sudasattva, that is the transcendental mode of goodness. And the transcendental mode of goodness is a place from which we do not fall down. We do not fall down into the material atmosphere. In other words, we are very attached within to transcendental life, to a reality to which we originally belong, that is beyond the ups and downs of everyday life. It is purely spiritual. We're on a spiritual platform. And while we do experience emotions as persons, it is not of the same stuff. It is never ending. It is more on an even keel, if you like. In this world, we experience highs and lows. We experience like brutal highs and lows. But when you're experiencing happiness on this platform, it's something that is not dependent upon any external activities. In other words, it's not based on attraction or hatred. If you go on to the next mantras that are found in verse 19 and even in verse 20, it talks about that. So hatred and attraction are two sides of the same coin, ultimately. You know, if you have very strong feelings, against something, there's an attachment there, actually. There's an immaterial attachment there, because at the bottom of it, you felt that you weren't treated properly. Something happened. Something happened there to make you feel that strong emotion towards something or someone. And attraction, right? That is also an attachment that you have. You feel that you are deriving or going to derive some kind of pleasure, some kind of sensual pleasure, some kind of mental pleasure from something or someone. These are two sides of the same coin. But someone who is actually situated in transcendence, they do not feel hatred and they do not feel this material attraction. They are situated again in a transcendental mode of goodness. So they are getting their happiness from an internal source, something that may be invisible, but something that is very real. So in Bhakti Yoga, we are endeavoring in the sadhana stage to get to that point of connection with the transcendental reality, with the Supreme. We have activities. We have relationships. So I just want to check the time here. Excuse me one moment. I think I'm going to touch in on that next verse that I was talking about. So text 519 says, "Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Equanimity of mind, as mentioned above, is a sign of self-realization. Those who have actually attained to such a stage should be considered to have conquered material conditions, specifically birth and death. As long as one identifies with this body, he is considered a conditioned soul. But as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity through self-realization, or through the realization of self, he is liberated from conditional life. In other words, he is no longer subject to take birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or hatred. Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, he also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described below. Na prasyet priyam praptya, no dvijet prapyecha priyam, stira buddhir asamudo, brahma vid brāhmaṇe sthitaḥ. So this is the next verse, or mantra 20. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God or self-realization, is already situated in transcendence. So these are the symptoms of a person who is not in illusion by the false identification with matter, with the body, because he is hooked in to the true self. So, someone like Dr. Martin Luther King, who was a deeply spiritual man, was on this path because he could understand that everyone was equal, that beyond the body, underneath it, we were all part and parcel of the same thing. He was able to face difficulties and remain calm in the face of some very, very ugly and violent circumstances because of his underlying conviction in the equality of all persons. He had that sense of equanimity. And when we think of him, that's how we remember him. We remember someone who, not that they didn't have concerns, not that they did not have, he did not have fears, he had a family after all, but someone who was able to act in a fearless way. So these verses are taking us deeper into that kind of a mindset, to the point where you become so strong in that you become like a lamp in a windless place. Nothing disturbs you. The other amazing thing about this type of saintliness is that it has the ability to actually melt hearts. Because when someone is coming at you with a lot of hatred and with a lot of agitation, there is a self-loathing there. There are things that are spiritually not right with that person. If you can meet that other person with calm and with a peace and with a kind of a non-judgment, you can reach out to someone just by your presence of being in that way. It can help someone snap out of it and bring them to the beginning of an understanding of their true self and whom they really are. This chapter is called Action, Karma Yoga, Action, Yoga, Union. So I hope that this gives us some clues and gives us some inspiration and a way to get through our week and a way to navigate through the trying times that we are living in right now. Well, it's been 30 minutes. This was Mantra Monday. My name is Ekayani. I'm really happy that you took the time to be here. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, please let me know. And thank you very much. Until I see you again next week, you be well. Namaste.